On the 24th of December, Dr. Stahlbaum's children were not allowed on any pretext whatever at any time that day to go into the small drawing room, much less into the best drawing room into which it opened. Fritz and Marie were sitting cowering together in a corner of the back parlor when the evening twilight fell, and they began to feel terribly eerie. Seeing that no candles were brought, as was generally the case on Christmas Eve, Fritz, whispering in a mysterious fashion, confided to his young sister, who was just 7, that he had heard rattlings and rustlings going on all day since early morning inside the forbidden rooms, as well as distant hammering. Further, that a short time ago, a little dark-looking man had gone slipping and creeping across the floor with a big box under his arm, though he was well aware that this little man was no other than Grandpapa Drosselmeyer. At this news, Marie clapped her little hands with joy and cried, "Oh, I do wonder what pretty things Godpapa Drosselmeyer has been making for us this time." Godpapa Drosselmeyer was anything but a nice-looking man. He was small and lean, with a great many wrinkles on his face, a big patch of black plaster where his right eye ought to have been, and not a hair on his head, which was why he wore a fine white wig made of glass and a very beautiful work of art. But he was a very, very clever man who even knew and understood all about clocks and watches and could make them himself. So that when one of the beautiful clocks that were in Dr. Stahlbaum's house was out of sorts and couldn't sing, Godpapa Drosselmeyer would come, take off his glass periwig and his little yellow coat, gird himself with a blue apron, and proceed to stick sharp-pointed instruments into the inside of the clock in a way that made little Marie quite miserable to witness. However, this didn't really hurt the poor clock, which, on the contrary, would come to life again and begin to whir and sing and strike as merrily as ever, which caused everybody the greatest satisfaction. Of course, whenever he came, he always brought something delightful in his pockets for the children. Perhaps a little man who could roll his eyes and make bows and scrapes, most comic to behold, or a box out of which a little bird would jump, or something else of the kind. But for Christmas, he always had some specially charming piece of ingenuity, something which had cost him infinite pains and labor, for which reason it was always taken away and put aside with the greatest care by the children's parents. "Oh, what can Godpapa Drosselmeyer have been making for us this time?" Marie cried, as we have said. Fritz was of the opinion that this time it could hardly be anything but a great castle, a fortress, where all sorts of pretty soldiers would be drilling and marching about, and then that other soldiers would come and try to get into the fortress, upon which the soldiers inside would fire away at them as pluckily as you please with cannon, till everything banged and thundered like anything. No, Marie said. Godpapa Drosselmeyer once told me about a beautiful garden with a great lake in it, and beautiful swans swimming about with great gold collars, singing lovely music. And then a lovely little girl comes down through the garden to the lake and calls the swans and feeds them with shortbread and cake. "Swans don't eat cake and shortbread," Fritz cried rather rudely with masculine superiority, and Godpapa Drosselmeyer couldn't make a whole garden after all. We have got very few of his playthings. Whatever he brings is always taken away from us. So I like the things Papa and Mama give us much better. Oh, we keep them all right ourselves and can do what we like with them. The children went on discussing what he might have in store for them this time. Marie called Fritz's attention to the fact that Miss Gertrude, her biggest doll, appeared to be failing a good deal as time went on, inasmuch as she was more clumsy and awkward than ever, tumbling onto the floor every 2 or 3 minutes. This did not occur without leaving very ugly marks on her face, and of course proper condition of her clothes became out of the question altogether. Scolding was of no use. Mamma, too, had laughed at her for being so delighted with Miss Gertrude's little parasol. Fritz again remarked that a good fox was needed for his small zoological collection, and that his army was quite without cavalry, as his papa was well aware. But the children knew that their elders had got all sorts of charming things ready for them, and that the Christ child at Christmas time took special care for their wants. Marie sat in thoughtful silence, but Fritz murmured quietly to himself, "All the same, I should like a fox and some hussars." It was now quite dark. Fritz and Marie, sitting close together, did not dare to utter another syllable. They felt as if there were a fluttering of gentle, invisible wings around them, while a very distant but unutterably beautiful strain of music could dimly be heard. Then a bright gleam of light passed quickly across the wall, and the children knew that the Christ child had sped away on shining wings to other happy children. At this moment, a silvery bell said, "Cling-ling, cling-ling." The doors flew open, and such a brilliance of light came streaming from the drawing room that the children stood rooted where they were with cries of, "Oh! Oh!" Papa and Mamma came, took their hands, saying, "Come now, darlings, see what the blessed Christ child has brought for you."